I am on a mission to play every single Resident Evil game for the first time. However, I will complete each game with a different challenge. And today I'm gonna play Resident Evil Revelations for the first time. And the challenge is to finish the game with an S rank without running and without dying. So, will I be able to complete this challenge? Let's find out. Before I even started the game, I ran into a big problem. You see, I wanted to unbind my run key because, I didn't want to run by mistake and ruin my challenge. However, in this game, in order to run, you needed to press shift by itself, and in order to walk, you needed to press W plus shift. I don't know who agreed on this anti-human control scheme, but damn, that's crazy. But thankfully, I was able to solve this issue by changing the run button to be W, which changed the walk button to be W plus W. So when I press W, the game thinks that I'm pressing W plus W, which meant I ended up walking instead of running. Yay, problem solved. Now let's get to the actual challenge. The game starts as Jill was heading towards an abandoned ship that was called the Queen Zenobia, a ship which allegedly held Chris as a prisoner, who allegedly had information about the existence and whereabouts of a Resident Evil woman that is more attractive than Jill Valentine. So Jill pulled up to the ship and her journey to figure out who that woman was had officially started. The first thing that she stumbled upon inside of the ship was a dead body, which according to her, it smelled like rotten flesh. No me digas. As Senpai Jill continued investigating the ship, we discovered that we are not alone in this area. In this playthrough, you're gonna see me walk at an angle rather than walking straight forward. I discovered that the left and right strafe movements are way faster than the walk movement, a discovery that proved to be the most important one in this playthrough. There were sections in this game that without the zigzag strat were impossible to finish. When Senpai made it to this room, she put her hands in poop water and noticed that a creepy man was staring straight at her butt. So she defended her honor and put that man down. Then some cute lady on the beach tells us about some goofy ass city that got nuked to oblivion. We get sent back to an earlier time before pulling up to the ship. We get introduced to our female body inspector device, and yet again, Senpai puts her hand in some disgusting areas. We did find a suspicious looking pee sample, but our boss immediately took it from us, claiming that he wanna test it. Jill looked at him and said, "It's just pee, why do you wanna test it?" And he said since the pee sample was found using the female body inspector device, it 100% belongs to a woman, and he's gonna take it and verify the information. Then our boy Parcarito proceeded to ask him how is he gonna verify that the pee sample belongs to a woman, but our boss did not answer. As Jill continued her inspection around the beach, she found the handprint of that pendeja that is supposedly more attractive than her. And when Jill finally finished her inspection, our boss received the dreadful news that our boy Chris had been kidnapped and he was being held on some random ass ship as we speak. And now we are back on the ship. Jill continued tiptoeing her way through the ship, stumbled upon this door, and when she took a peek, she found Chris. But the door was locked and she couldn't go inside to set him free, which meant we needed to look for a key to help our boy. But as she was looking for that key, she heard the desperate cries of a woman who really needed her help. But before going to help that lady, she stood there and she was like, maybe this is the woman that is supposedly prettier than I am. Maybe it's in my advantage if that woman were no longer here. I mean, if she's so pretty, she can help herself. I don't know what kind of mental gymnastics Jill was doing, but this woman can do whatever she wants. I swear to God, guys, I'm not simping for Jill. I just think simping is funny, so here we are. I will never beat these simping allegations. So after playing with her hair for a bit, she watched that poor lady get slapped, made sure to take her sweet time on her way to helping her, put those two down, but unfortunately, that lady was no longer with us. She pulled out her female body inspector to check how thick that lady was, and as suspected, that lady was not as thick as Jill. I'm sorry guys, but this is the story that I decided to roll with in this video, so and after finding the key, she noticed another handprint, one on the beach and one on the ship. They definitely belong to that alleged woman. So after making sure that this lady was not the competition, it was time to go save our boy Chris. And when we entered the room, we discovered that this was a plastic mannequin that looked like Chris. I mean, I don't know why would someone have a plastic mannequin that looks like Chris. I mean, if it looked like Daddy Wesker, that would be an entire different conversation. But Chris, I don't know, man. But before we figured that out, someone farted so hard we all got knocked out. And then some masked guy pulled up and told us that he was the one that did it. And with that, we finished chapter 1 with an S rank. Chapter 2 starts as Chris and some random aho make their way through some snowy mountains. A plane then crashed right in front of them because apparently the pilot was watching TikToks and wasn't paying attention. Some infected dogs pulled up because it wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without them. Out of shape, Chris jumped and twisted his ankle, got ambushed by dogs because why not? And after 2 business days, Jessica finally came to help him and he just stood back up? You're telling me you could have done that the whole time but you chose to be a little princess? And then delusional Jessica asked Chris whether he trusted her as much as he trusted Jill. I mean, look at you and look at her. Did you really have to ask that question? You're just embarrassing yourself at this point. O'Brien then told Chris about the ship situation and how Jill and Parker are in big trouble. Speaking of which, Jill finally woke up and found herself in some random room, continued her quest to touch as many disgusting objects as possible, and now the game introduces the evade mechanic, which in order to use you needed to press W, the key that you use to walk, or Q, the key that you use to quick turn. And to make the party even bigger, you could not change any of these 2 buttons. So after duking and breaking some TV, Jill safely engineered her way out of the room, juked some more and continued tippy-toeing, and when I say tippy-toeing, I really mean it. And in a classic Resident Evil fashion, we found a shotgun on the wall, but unfortunately we needed some sort of emblem in order to get the shotgun. So Jill continued walking past enemies, made it to the sick dining hall, regrouped with Parker who proceeded to tell her the obvious.
Okay, we're going to need our weapons.
Kicked a metal door, got our equipment and got introduced to the weapon box, juked more enemies and refused to hold the elevator for Parker. Cause you guys already know, my elevators ain't waiting for nobody. And when we finally made it to our destination, we discovered that the communication system was tampered with. And not just that, our boat got blown up. And as we were running back to the boat to save our undies, some guy with a strange haircut pulled up and started choking Jill. She kicked him and freed herself, and then we found out that the man with the goofier hairstyle was one of Parker's old homies. And with that, we finished chapter 2 with an S rank. Then chapter 3 starts with a flashback of the city of Terra Grigia before the incident, during which Raymond, the guy with the strange haircut, Jessica, the hoe, and Parkarito were working for the FPC. There was nothing interesting in this section other than the fact that the hunters really didn't want me to get the accuracy percentage that is required to get an S. These Wesker wannabes tried their hardest to mess up my aim, and when we got up to the 6th floor and made it to the elevator, even more hunters pulled up. And when the elevator finally came, Jessica just had to take her usual 5 business days to get on. And not just that, she told Parker that he owed her a dinner, but Parker refused to be a simp and told her to bow. And after they made it to the helicopter and got on, they sat there and watched as the city of Terra Grigia was no more. Fast forward to the ship, Parker finally recognized his old homie from the FPC. Despite having the same goofy haircut and the same exact clothes from last year and the same voice, Parker couldn't recognize him up until he saw his face. Upon further inspection of the area, Jill found yet another handprint. That imaginary lady was taunting her, mocking her, and left little evidence of her existence as a part of this sick game that she was playing. As we continued exploring the ship, we found this key item and the crest that was needed to get the shotgun. Quick, close the door! Ah, he made it. And when we made it to this beautiful area, we discovered that the door we needed was locked. So our next objective was to find the key. A key which was in this guy's pockets. Now the calm officer boss fight is really hard to do in the normal way. Cause 1, every enemy is way faster than your walking speed. And 2, enemies spawn in front of you as you walk through the area. So the enemies behind you are breathing down your neck and the enemies in front of you are blocking your way. However, I came up with this sick strat where I jump in and out of this window until the fight was over. You see, when you open the door for him and jump through the window, his AI tells him to take the long way in order to get to you. So when he gives you his back, empty your entire magazine on him until he reaches the door, go in and take a couple of shots, then go back out and rinse and repeat. Also, I think this limited the number of enemies that spawned and the kind of enemies that spawned. The vast majority of enemies were ranged ones, which are really easy to deal with since they don't get all close and personal. And for the ones that do get close and personal, you just do the window strat. So after eliminating the comms officer and collecting his key, we took care of the remaining enemies and booked it back to the hall. And when we made it to the communication room, which was clearly locked, keep that in mind, you're gonna need that information later, we went inside and we found Raymond? Wait a minute, how did he manage to go inside when the door was clearly locked? But before we could get that information out of him, the masked guy started a Zoom call and told us that if we didn't behave, he was gonna fart all over, which was the last sentence that we heard before finishing chapter 3 with an S rank. And our objective for chapter 4 was to get the power back on in the communication room. But before that, Raymond gave us the anchor key and started yapping about some Rachel woman that he was missing or something. We didn't really care though, so we just went to the casino and gambled all of our money. Used the few coins that we got from begging to get to the VIP room, made it to this lift that needed a key to operate, used this elevator to get back to the first area in the game, and then Parker and Jill realized that this Rachel lady might have been the one that we watched pass away at the start of this mission. Rest assured, sooner or later, I will find you. Oh, hello. And when Jill made it back to that area, she made the horrifying discovery that this busty lady was still alive. Oh no, the competitors were of an elite caliber. We first got Fingerprints Lady and now busty Rachel. And not just that, Rachel left a note for Jill telling her to count her days as the most attractive Resident Evil lady, and then pulled up and ran away to assert dominance. The Rachel fight was sad. She kept missing her attacks and then running away crying out of embarrassment. So Jill did the humane thing, which was putting her out of her misery, and then collected the key, which was apparently in her butt. The female body inspector device was pulled out, the key was inserted, and chapter 4 got S ranked. And at the start of chapter 5, we get introduced to these two goofballs, get a sneak peek of the invisible hunters, and finish their little section after finding a Crypto Bros USB. And now we get back to Senpai Jill and follow her around as she figures out a way to stop the flooding in the village. And when it comes to Las Cucarachas, a strategy that worked was shooting them once whenever they popped their heads out and then walking right past them like nothing had happened. I mean, they did ambush me a couple of times, but it was nothing that crazy. And for the fishes, one shot is enough to put them down. Just don't try to act smart by going out of the water, because guess what? They breathe air too. So after turning off the pressure and finding the cog, we placed it in here and got the key we needed. But when we used it, we discovered that this was a trap and we were about to take a forever shower. And poor Parker got so scared he started stating the obvious.
Jill, it's not stopping.
Then we got back to these goofballs and watched our boy get slapped by his girlfriend that goes to another school, and then the invisible hunters pulled up. And now you're gonna ask me, how did I manage to defeat the invisible hunters without damaging my accuracy percentage? Well, I sat in the corner like the little coward that I am and only shot at them when they turned glass-like. Just like my grandpappy told me, grandchild, sometimes it's okay to be a wuss. Thank you, Grandpappy. I will always miss you. Our boy then found the coordinates where the Queen Zenobia was, sent it in the WhatsApp group chat so Chris could see it, and then we received the news that Chapter 5 just got S ranked. Chapter 6 starts as Chris was pulling up to the ship, then made it to the casino and met the comm officer twins. Now, despite the fact that there was two of them, this fight was extremely easy. They were faster than me and basically were breathing down my neck during the entire fight, but for some reason they never grabbed me to do their insta-kill attack. They did beat up Jessica though, so that was great. After a couple of punches we defeated the twins and got the trident key, used it to go down to the bilge and met the explodey boys. One of them was blocking the door and I couldn't just walk past him since he would just have exploded and got his disgusting fluids all over my clothes. So I tried the door strat to get him to explode while I'm in the door opening animation since it gives me iframes, but it did not work. Chris finally made it to the lift, met these innocent bystanders, blew them up for literally no reason, purposefully got Jessica blown up. I totally didn't mean that. But when they made it to the engine room, they discovered that they were in the Queen Emeritus and not the Queen Zenobia. Meanwhile, on the Queen Zenobia, Parker was begging for his life, which gave Jill the ick, so she manned up and saved both of them, and it was time to get the hell out of there. So after eliminating the rest of Las Cucarachas, they finally made it out and their new objective was to fix the antennas to get into contact with HQ. Is this what you'll be doing during cutscenes? As we were making our way up, some guy pulled up and told us that he wanted to catch the elevator with us. We obviously kicked him out, but when we reached this area, he came back and told us that we were going to pay for not holding the elevator for him. Now, my strategy for this fight was, as he prepared his charge attack, I continued walking in the same direction until he got close enough, then switched to the opposite direction, barely missing his attack, and emptied my ammunition on him while he was in his recovery animation. The strategy wasn't perfect as I did get run over multiple times, but it was consistent enough for me to finish the fight on my first try without any major losses. So after defeating Elevator Boy, Jill fixed the antennas using a screwdriver, and when we finally contacted HQ and started begging them to come and get us out, O'Brien hanged up on us and started chatting with his side chick, then called us back 5 minutes later to tell us that we are about to get Terra Grigiat. And with that, we finished Chapter 6 with an S rank. As for Chapter 7, our new objective was to avoid getting nuked, and luckily, our boy had the solution to our problem. You see, what we needed to do was to get our hands on a drone plane that was located somewhere on the ship and use it to confuse the satellite that was about to beam us out of existence. A small issue, the drone was on the foredeck, which was the farthest point from our current location, and time was running out. And to make our predicament even more predicamenty, Rachel was following us through the entire ship, and she told us that she wouldn't stop until Jill was dead. And when we finally made it to the foredeck, knock knock, hunters on the dock. We then found the drone and set it up. Our boy told us that the remote we needed to activate the drone was on the ship's hold, and we only had 5 minutes to get there. Was this gonna be the end of this challenge? Should I just give up? No. I equipped my magnum, got a double kill, continued zigzagging, shot every single hunter that dared to stand in my way, finally made it to the end of the side deck, and when I got down to this area, Rachel kept grabbing Jill over and over, telling her that this was the end and her title as the most attractive Resident Evil lady was being revoked and all that nasty stuff. And when Jill finally escaped her, she magically slipped by a comm officer, and then she got slapped, grabbed, but she pushed through all of that and finally made it with 33 seconds left on the clock. And Chapter 7 got us ranked. And for Chapter 8, a gist of it would be just and when we finally made it back to the casino, the masked guy pulled up and started clapping all zesty and shit, then told us that he was about to reveal the secret about Handprint Lady, but just as he was about to spill the beans, Jessica pulled up and shot that man dead. No, you hoe, he was about to start snitching. We then discovered that the snitch was Raymond, but thankfully he was able to resume his snitching before passing away. You know what they say, snitches do be snitching. Our boy Raymond, him in his goofy hairstyle. Wait, what?
Where? A little friendly partner swapping should keep us on the road. Roger that. Take care
Hey
of
yo,
the
Chris, I am sick and tired of my chick. Can you low-key lend me yours for 5 minutes or something?
Been underwater. Should slow those things down.
I love this game. Chris then told Jill that he's so glad that they switched partners and he finally got rid of Jessica. And when Jill asked why, he told her that during their entire time together, Jessica kept gossiping about other BSSA members, which made Chris really uncomfortable. Then Jill told him that the moment she saw how ghetto her outfit was, she knew she didn't belong here. And as Jill was literally fighting for her life, Chris just stood there and pretended to be like a lamp or something. Then this guy pulled up, Jill kicked him so hard he split in half, and then we found our boy the Lightning Hawk, guaranteed to give you a headache. Chris then started looking at us all judgy because he wasn't sure we'd get an S rank, but eventually we did. And now we are back to our boys at the Snowy Mountains, as they were downloading a ransomware to the family laptop. Of course it would shut down, what did you expect? Goofy! Luckily, we found another laptop that we could use to get our free V-Bucks. Now, even though this area was filled to the brim with RPGs, snipers, and grenades, the only thing that you need to do is go up this ladder, stand in this corner, pull out your shotgun, and then blast every single enemy that comes your way. And when the generator goes down, just calmly tiptoe your way to it, turn it back on, and tiptoe your way back. Congratulations, you have beaten this section with no issues. Our boy then made the shocking discovery that all of that ship situation was caused by O'Brien, who just wanted to get back at his boyfriend. Buddy, you're good? Jill and Chris then made it to the control system, but we needed some sort of passcode to activate the neutralization agent. Then Chris proceeded to tell us that he cracked the code for the elevator. Why won't you crack the code for the other thing? Or you just the elevator code cracker boy? My god! And he had the nerve to start yelling at us and telling us to be careful. Buddy, weren't you the one that ran away from Raccoon City and pretended to be on a vacation? And in this guy's diary, we found the passcode that we needed alongside a vaccine. Jill injected herself with the vaccine for some reason, downloaded Resident Evil mods to use in her next video, and when she finally finished and pulled her USB out, poo-poo water started leaking out and it was all over again. And after using the passcode and starting the neutralization process, a still image of Morgan started talking to us. I mean, imagine this guy in a Zoom call. Instead of opening his webcam, he just screen shared this image. Jill Valentine, could you please open your mic? A bunch of enemies pulled up while the image was still talking. Morgan finally opened his webcam and ranked S, got 9 chapter. Going back to Parker and Jessica, their mission was to reach the bridge. Damn, that's crazy. But Rachel just had to ruin it for them. I mean, Rachel is fine looking, but damn, she's clingy. I mean, look at her trying to open the door like, get a hobby or something, lady. Through the entire way, I just had to take her beatings and move on. And when Parker finally escaped Rachel, gold-digging Jessica told him that because she reached the bridge faster than him, he had to take her on a shopping spree on his credit card. Where does this lady get the nerve? But thankfully, good old Parker told her that he ain't her boyfriend and he ain't doing none of that. Then he pulled out his gun on her because he suspected that she was a spy, but she brushed it off saying that he was just seeing things. Our boy Raymond pulled up from the dead and confirmed that she was a spy and her mission was to activate the ship's self-destruct mechanism in order to destroy the evidence of her working at a nightclub. Why? Because she didn't want her new man to find out. But unfortunately, poor old Parker just couldn't see it. Backstabbing Jessica then shot Parker, activated the ship's self-destruct mechanism and ran away. And as she was running away, Parker swore that he was gonna find those evidence and show them to her new man to ruin their relationship. What am I even saying, man? Do you guys even remember what this video is even about? By the way, this is a Resident Evil Revelations, no running, S rank, and a permadeath run. Do you even remember that? Anyway, let's get back to my made up story. Meanwhile, it was time for Chris and Jill to start running for their lives. So after a little bit of Jill found Parker on the ground, and when he told her that Jessica was a spy, she told him that he should have known the moment he saw her ghetto outfit. And as we were making our way out, Parker started saying that he was slowing us down and stuff. Buddy, don't even worry about it. But just before we made it, the floor collapsed and Parker was on his way to cancel his life subscription. And even though Jill managed to catch him, she was just a scrawny woman and couldn't lift him because he was a beefy boy. So Chris came to give her a hand, but he couldn't do it either. And then Chris's hand slipped and we watched as the flames engulfed our boy Parker. Chris then states the obvious, and then we discover that we only had 4.5 minutes to escape. So we proceeded to waste 15 seconds to steal Parker's gun. Then more enemies pulled up, so we used our lightning hawk. Awkwardly stood by this one until he blew up. Skipped past these two cause we ain't got time to play with monsters. And when we made it to the side deck, it was so slanted to the point where I was walking at a 0.00 kilometers per hour. And to put the cherry on the top, I ate every single object that was thrown at me, and with each knockout I wasted 7 to 10 seconds. After making it out with very little time left, I finally made it with 25 seconds remaining. Whew. This challenge was still on. But just as we were about to get on the helicopter, De Laro pulled up. But thank God the chapter ended before we fought him and we received our S rank. Imagine if we had to fight that thing. That would have sucked. Ay, por favor. Well, it turned out we did have to fight it, but even though the fight was timed, the no running rule wasn't really much of an issue, since we just needed to shoot at him and our helicopter lady kept dropping us RPGs. Plus, bro was missing all of his attacks, so we easily RPG'd him to death and finished this fight with no issues. And for the helicopter section, I shot at the base so I don't ruin my accuracy percentage. Jill grabbed an RPG and aimed at his mouth, and De Laro was no more. And now we get another flashback of Terra Grigia before the incident. Now this section was annoyingly boring. I tippy-toed my way through the entire building until I found Raymond, got slapped in the face as I was trying to help him, and at a painfully slow speed I carried him and took him all the way to this area, went back all the way to the 4th floor to get our boy a tourniquet, went back back to help him, got him up on his feet and made it to the reception area. And when we finally made it to this door, Jessica told us that we needed to wait for Raymond, then clean up all the remaining hunters, and then we can go inside to safety. And oh, hunters just wait for you by the door that has an opening animation and you can't open it without going to the other room, which meant hunters got a free hit. We all love hunters, don't we? Anyways, S rank, whatever. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we arrived at the last chapter. The Queen is dead. Everything that we did throughout our journey, from pulling up to the ship, meeting Busty Rachel, Chris, Raymond, Parker, and the Hoe, all of that led to this exact moment. And the truth about Handprint Lady was just about to be revealed. The finale to our story started as Jill and Chris were heading towards the last ship, the Queen Dido. Inside said ship, the truth about Handprint Lady could be found. So Jill and Chris pulled up to the ship. I don't think this is how it works. Found some creepy monsters and turned back the power inside of a sunken ship. And even though the entire ship was sunk, we found an area with no water. Found someone's mixtape and started listening to his sick beats. And then we made it to this guy who started tweaking as we approached him, pulled out his iPod saying that he had the sickest beats and all the other mixtapers on the ship were just a bunch of amateurs. So after taking his iPod and excusing ourselves, he stopped us as we were heading out and told us that handprint lady was him. Jill immediately called BS. I mean, what was that old man even talking about? But then he showed her his hand and it fit that handprint perfectly. She could not believe it. Those perfect female hands were his? Ew! He then started yapping about how much trouble he had to go through to be the prettiest Resident Evil lady and whatnot. Chris then looked at him and said, why didn't you just be the prettiest Resident Evil boy? I mean, that would have been easier. He then looked at him and said, you know what? I never thought of that. Low-key, that would have been way easier. So when he transformed to his female form, Jill laughed at him and told him how ugly he looked and, blew him up with her RPG? I mean, it was well within her rights. This guy was threatening her throne as the most attractive Resident Evil lady. So, unfortunately, the RPG didn't kill him instantly, but rather sent him to phase 3, I guess. But honestly, this fight was really fun. So when Jill put him down, he started throwing a tantrum about how much of a monster Jill was and how that she was a bad person for not letting him have this one little thing that he really wanted. Anyways, Jill didn't give a single fudge and just took his iPod and left. Chris, being the good guy he is, told Jill that she could have just told him that he was the prettiest Resident Evil lady since that was the only thing that poor soul wanted. And also, he was low-key on his deathbed, so. But Jill being Jill, she looked at Chris and told him to sabao. In her eyes, the only thing that mattered that the competition was eliminated. And with that, we finished chapter 12, which meant that we just finished the game with an S rank. And oh, by the way, our boy Parker is still alive. So, to answer the question, can you finish Resident Evil Revelations without dying or running and get an S rank? Absolutely yes! I had a blast playing this game and doing this challenge. And low key, high key, medium height key, this was the most enjoyable Resident Evil game that I have played. I don't know why, but this game was just fun, and I'm definitely doing other challenges in this game. So, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on my main channel, and I will see you in the next one.